The Shiunji family is super rich and lives in a mansion with a ton of staff. Despite being the eldest heir of the Shiunji family, Arata is struggling in the romance department, and he's stressed about not having a girlfriend. Over breakfast in the mansion, Arata vents to his younger brother Shion, who's 15. Shion, who's way more popular in dating someone, tells Arata to chill out, reminding him that as the eldest son of the Shiunji family, he should have no problem finding a partner. When Shion asks if there's a particular girl Arata likes, Arata admits he's taking things slowly, and deep down, he's crushing on a girl named Rara. Shion teases him, reminding Arata how their youngest sister, Kotono, once confessed her love for him. Arata quickly brushes it off as a sibling misunderstanding, saying he'll never see his sisters that way. During their brotherly chat, their 5 sisters walk in, and they are introduced one by one. Bonri, the eldest, who's in her first year of university, training to be a nurse. Sia, the president of the science club. Ukah, a swimmer and track club member. Manami, a tennis ace and future Olympian. And finally, Kotono, the quiet but adorable youngest sister. The girls quickly catch on to what the brothers were discussing, and they start teasing Arata. To make matters worse, Shion lies, saying that Arata was complimenting Ukah's body. In a rage, Ukah sends her dog to attack Arata. Meanwhile, the siblings agree it's unacceptable to have romantic thoughts about each other, but their eldest sister, Bonri, shuts them down by pointing out everyone's individual weaknesses. When Manami defends Arata's character, calling him a good guy, Arata gets so flustered that he tries to hug her, but Manami, under athlete instincts, knocks him down with a punch. Before leaving, Ukah plans a weekend outing to celebrate Kotono's 15th birthday. The brothers have a stark difference between their public and private lives. At school, the Shiunji sisters are considered something special, and each of them has their own fan club. Shion is just as popular with the girls, while Arata is mostly known among the guys for his physique. However, in the privacy of the school bathroom, the brothers discuss the reality of their home life, where their sisters often bully them or physically punish them, and their parents always side with the girls. Later, Arata gets stressed. He's debating whether to send Rara a friend request when Ukah barges into his room to borrow his notes. Seeing her in fewer clothes, Arata tells her to wear more, but Ukah denies it, saying they've been bathing together since childhood and there's nothing she hasn't seen. She guesses correctly that he likes Rara and offers to send the request for him. When Arata stops her, afraid of rejection, she scolds him and storms off. Meanwhile, Kotono is seen staring at a family photo alone, where Arata is present, indicating her lingering feelings for him. The next day, Arata's romantic hopes seem crushed when he spots Rara with another guy, and he assumes they're dating. Frustrated, he questions his identity and wonders how different his life would be if he wasn't born into the Shiunji family. That tension peaks on the night of Kotono's 15th birthday party. As the family gathers around the dinner table, everyone is dressed formally, following the father's strict rules. A small argument breaks out between Manami and Ukah over missing earbuds, and the atmosphere gets tense. Arata, overwhelmed by thoughts of the family's future and their complicated relationships, suddenly yells at them to stop saying they are siblings. It lightens the mood briefly until the father enters for a formal announcement. Before dinner begins, the father reveals a secret he decided long ago to share when Kotono turned 15. He informs the gathered children that despite their love, they are not biological siblings. He explains that all of them were adopted, except for Shion and Manami, who are the only biological twins in the family. The rest of the siblings share no blood relation with each other or the parents. The revelation stuns everyone, and silence falls over the room. Although the father urges them to continue the ceremony, dinner that night remains tense as the siblings grapple with the reality that their entire family dynamic has just changed. After the shocking announcement at dinner, the siblings privately gather to process the huge news. While Minami stays cheerful and unfazed as usual, the others feel that despite not being blood-related, their long-shared history makes them feel like real siblings. They agree not to blame their father for keeping the secret, though they question his timing of revealing it on Kotono's birthday. When Seiha asks the eldest sister, Bonri, if she remembers Kotono's arrival at age 5, Bonri claims her childhood memories are blurry. However, her slight reaction suggests she remembers the truth, but is deliberately hiding it from the rest of the family. Meanwhile, Shion and Ukah talk in the kitchen, discussing the strange reality of their new family situation. Shion explains that since they're not blood-related, siblings can technically marry, which unsettles Ukah. She then asks about the past incident between Arata and Kotono. Shion reveals that Kotono once confessed her feelings to Arata when they still considered themselves relatives. Arata rejected her immediately, but when Kotono pushed him, a physical struggle ensued. Shion points out that with the biological barrier now completely removed, the situation is far more dangerous. Meanwhile, Arata goes to take a shower, but accidentally walks in while Kotono is there. They freeze, and Arata tries to back away, but Kotono calmly tells him to wash her back like he used to when they were little. Arata scolds her for needing help at her age, but hesitantly agrees. and Arata accidentally fell on her just as the other sisters walked in. Suddenly, Kotono hugs him tightly from behind. She tells him that since step-siblings can legally marry, she still loves him. Arata gently but firmly pulls away, explaining that hormonal confusion during puberty often makes teenagers mistake deep respect for romantic love. He reiterates his role as her big brother, promising to protect her until she finds a suitable husband. When Arata leaves and quietly wishes her a happy birthday, an unseen figure is eavesdropping outside the door. Elsewhere, their father stands before a photo of his late wife, saying he has finally fulfilled the promise he made to her. Arata returns to his room to find Siha waiting there. When she catches him in a lie about going for a walk, she suddenly pushes him onto his bed, pressing her body against his and demanding complete privacy. When Arata starts panicking, Siha ends the act and reveals that she was the one eavesdropping outside the bathroom. She explains that she was directly testing his self-control to make sure he doesn't take advantage of the recent revelation that they're not blood-related. She reminds him that since there's no biological barrier to stop them, the sisters have no reason to suppress their feelings. Satisfied that Arata acted like a responsible big brother, she leaves, though she questions her own physical reactions during the test in private. The next morning, Arata returns to find Bonri and Kotono dressed in nurse uniforms. Bonri excitedly asks for his opinion, but his blunt and dismissive response sends the eldest sister into tears of disappointment. On the way to school, Arata and Shion notice boys staring at their sisters. They discuss how skilled the girls are at hiding their true feelings, as they appear perfectly normal and happy in public, despite the intense inner turmoil caused by the adoption revelation. After school, Arata encounters Manami, whose tennis practice was suspended due to her low scores. After dealing with a group of excited girls, Arata offers to tutor her in a private karaoke booth. Manami struggles with the material and eventually gives up, starting a song about her life as an athlete, which ultimately relieves the tension and makes Arata laugh. Stepping out of the booth, Arata spots his crush Rara walking with another guy and quickly hides. Noticing his sudden sadness, Manami steers the conversation toward their family situation. She expresses her desire to find her biological parents and worries about Kotono's emotional state. She jokingly suggests that she could call Arata senpai now that they're not related. She also encourages him not to give up on Rara, admitting that Ukah exposed his secret crush. Later that evening, Manami brings Ukah a cake to apologize for the missing item, officially ending their previous argument. The next morning starts with Arata and Kotono meeting in the hallway. Seiha quickly intervenes, and Manami soon joins in, talking about beating Arata in a video game and calling him senpai. Seiha argues that the title is for an intelligent person, and Arata sighs deeply at their bickering. Later at school, Arata tries to avoid Rata in the hallways. Ukah approaches him and teases him for being a coward, laughing that he got rejected without even confessing. When Ukah returns to her friends, they notice Arata from afar, compliment his beautiful physique, and jokingly ask if they can go out with him. Panicked, Ukah immediately denies the idea, calling him a muscle maniac, but accidentally gives a genuine compliment, causing her to blush. Meanwhile, Arata notices her leaving and thinks about the upcoming family trip to the marine park, hoping it doesn't turn into another problem. The family goes to a marine park to celebrate Kotono's birthday. After seeing the park's mascot, Manami complains about being hungry. Bonri takes charge of buying food and brings Arata along for help. When they return, the rest of the group is gone. Arata tries calling them, but no one answers. Bonri jokingly calls it a proper date, and Arata has to carry all the food he saved, and eventually, as they walk, Bonri links her arm with his and holds his hand, making him extremely nervous. She teases him, saying that since no one knows they're siblings, they should just enjoy the moment. Her confidence and beauty make all the boys in the park jealous. Arata gets so flustered by the teasing that he looks away respectfully while climbing stairs, loses balance, and falls embarrassingly. Bonri just laughs and calls him cute. They continue enjoying the park alone. Eventually, Arata gets a call from Shion, but after realizing they're on opposite sides of the park, they decide to meet later. Meanwhile, the rest of the siblings watch a show and enjoy the rides. The girls gossip and joke that Bonri must be teasing Arata a lot. They also make sure Kotono has a good time on her birthday. Later, while taking a break in the food court, Bonri eats some food while Arata watches her. Behind her teasing, he notices her warm and gentle smile. Arata asks her thoughts on their father's recent revelation. Bonri admits it was a huge shock, but she's trying to understand it. When she asks for his opinion, Arata firmly says he doesn't want their sibling relationship to change. Hearing this, Bonri smiles, calls him cute, and playfully messes up his hair, just like she used to when he cried as a child. She reminds him that as the oldest, she swore to protect them all. Suddenly, a girl falls nearby, and her drink is about to spill on Bonri. Arata instinctively steps forward and takes the drink on himself. When the girl apologizes profusely, Arata smiles and reassures her. When Bonri scolds him for being careless, Arata replies that he wants to protect everyone like her, which makes his big sister blush, seeing how much he's grown. The family finally reunites, and the siblings immediately tease the wet Arata, joking about him spending alone time with Bonri. As they head to the next attraction, Bonri proudly holds his hand. Later, while stopping near a bridge, Arata, Shion, and Kotono head to the restroom, leaving the girls alone. Siha takes the opportunity to reveal Kotono's bold romantic confession towards Arata. She shocks the group further by saying that she physically tested his self-control to ensure he wouldn't make a move now that they're not blood-related. Ukah is stunned by the extreme method, and she recalls how, in the past, when Kotono tried something similar, Arata took the blame. To ease the tension, Bonri steps in and reveals that she recently spoke to their father, learning that they're all orphans with no record of their biological parents. She advises the sisters to stay calm, not to take Kotono's childish actions too seriously, and to simply care for each other. After this, the group heads to the souvenir shop. Arata feels relieved to see Kotono happy again. Suddenly, fireworks start in the sky, and the siblings watch in awe. During this, Arata spots someone who looks like his crush Rara with another guy, and he stops. Ukah notices his reaction and pulls him for a quiet walk. She admits how strange it feels that they're no longer actual twins, but Arata gently insists that no matter what, she'll always be his twin. Ukah smiles softly, reminiscing about their childhood when they truly believed they had telepathy because they were twins. Then, looking at him directly, she suddenly says, "I love you." Those words completely shock Arata, and he recalls a recent conversation at school. Shion had asked Arata if he now sees his sisters like normal women, and pointed out that since the biological barrier is gone, romantic feelings are entirely possible. Shion had even mentioned Kotono's confession as proof. Arata had firmly rejected the idea, refusing to see his sisters romantically. Back in the present, Arata's mind races, and he catches himself looking at Ukah differently for a moment. However, before things get tense, Ukah quickly clarifies that she meant she's happy to be his sister, and that her love is purely familial. She admits Shion told her about the Kotono incident, and praises Arata for handling such a delicate situation so maturely. Calm but mentally exhausted, Arata jokingly tells her she's just pretending to be difficult. Rolling her eyes, Ukah heads off to join the others. Left alone, Arata realizes how much Shion's words have affected him, and he starts overthinking. Meanwhile, as Ukah walks back alone, she reflects on her own words and quietly feels a deep, unexplained jealousy growing inside her since she learned about Kotono's confession. The morning after the birthday trip, Arata is working out in the home gym to achieve peak physique. To his surprise, Manami, who usually sleeps in, walks in and asks to join him. When he welcomes her, she tells him to stay quiet so early in the morning and compliments his consistency, recalling how their father used to push Arata to his limits to build his character. Arata questions the mental benefits of such training, but returns the compliment, mentioning Manami's dedication to her Olympic dreams, which makes her a bit flustered. However, Manami is troubled inside. The night before, while the girls were buying souvenirs, she noticed Arata and Ukah were missing. As she searched for them, she accidentally overheard Ukah confessing her love to Arata. Curious and disturbed by the idea of a romantic relationship forming between her siblings, Manami struggles to focus on her workout. Arata scolds her for exercising poorly. Gathering courage, Manami asks Arata if something is going on between him and Ukah. Misunderstanding the question, Arata casually replies that despite frequent arguments, he and Ukah share a strong bond. Hearing this, Manami's concern deepens that they might be too close, and she quickly excuses herself, saying she'll work out later that evening. Wondering about Manami's strange behavior, Arata heads to the bathroom for a shower. Opening the door, Arata panics, but Seihai remains composed, saying that while the situation is common, Arata isn't reacting like a typical man who panics easily. She admits she forgot to lock the door, but jokes that if he wants to see his sister like that, he needs therapy. When Arata tries closing the door, he realizes her clothes are stuck, forcing him to awkwardly toss them into the laundry basket while avoiding eye contact. He notices how calmly Seihai handled the situation, seemingly unaffected by their lack of blood relation. Then, he sees that she's wearing their late mother's ring. Seihai explains that while it's still a bit loose, she wears it as a keepsake. Later, Bonri enters Arata's room for the first time in 2 years. She compliments him for keeping it clean, recalling how their father used to scold him for messiness. As she glances around, she notices something on his laptop about the perfect girlfriend, which embarrasses Arata, but then she reveals her real reason for visiting. She wants to take him on a date. The next day, Bonri takes Arata to a phone store, knowing he's wanted a new phone for a while. Arata is impressed by her thoughtfulness, but she quickly teases him again, joking about spending the night at a hotel after dinner. Arata panics and tells her to stop. In the store, Arata quickly chooses a phone based on utility. Bonri compares choosing a phone to choosing a partner, saying that looks matter alongside personality. While paying, the saleswoman mistakes them for a couple and offers a discount. Bonri jokingly hugs Arata to accept the offer, which flusters him, but Arata firmly declines the offer. As they leave, they grab ice cream. Bonri recalls a childhood ice cream fight that started when Manami ate Kotono's ice cream. Arata remembers how shy Kotono used to hide in the closet afterward, earning the nickname Closet Fairy. He then jokingly reminds Bonri of her childhood fear of ghosts, and she tells him to shut up. Getting serious, Bonri asks Arata if something's bothering him, and Arata insists everything's fine. Meanwhile, at home, Kotono looks through trip photos, pausing at pictures of Arata. Her phone buzzes with a group chat notification from the sisters. Bonri sent a photo of her and Arata's ice cream date. Despite feeling a bit jealous, Kotono saves the photo. Back on the date, Bonri receives a message, and her expression changes. She apologizes, saying she has urgent work and must leave immediately. Arata tells her that her next date should be with a real boyfriend, which makes Bonri blush, and she warns him not to get cocky while people are watching. Then Bonri calls Manami and admits she couldn't get Arata to spill what happened with Ukah. Manami, still shocked by what she heard, replies that she must have misheard Ukah's confession and that nothing happened between them. However, she accidentally sends this message straight to the sisters' group chat. Realizing her mistake, Manami panics and immediately deletes it, hoping no one saw it. Just then, Ukah walks into the bathroom and tells Manami to hurry up. Manami feels relieved, knowing Ukah didn't see the message. However, before Manami could delete it, Kotono saw it. With panic, Kotono realizes the truth. She has a love rival. At dinner, Arata notices Seiha is unusually quiet and lost in thought. Later, when he meets her in the hallway, he hesitates but finally asks if she's okay, offering to help as her brother. Seiha surprises him by demanding they play Twister. She casually explains that ever since she tested him by sitting on him in his room, she's been having inappropriate, distracting thoughts about him. With university exams approaching, she needs to test her feelings once and for all. If her emotions have gone beyond sibling love, it could become a big problem. When Seiha reminds him that she offered to help him with his final exams, Arata hesitantly agrees. During the game, Arata deliberately keeps distance, fearing physical contact. However, Seiha deliberately moves closer, hoping to elicit some reaction to test her feelings. When she ends up in awkward positions during the game, Arata becomes extremely restless and tries to forfeit, but Seiha refuses to let him go. Forced to continue, Arata places his foot near hers and accidentally brushes against her. While Arata's mind races, Seiha remains completely calm and starts lecturing him about human hormones, comparing dopamine, which creates the desire to win, to oxytocin, which creates closeness, and wonders aloud when her feelings switch between the two. She discusses the nature of love, physical contact, and trust, questioning whether trust builds over 50 years or forms in an instant, and whether she can feel it for him as her little brother. Arata goes completely silent, thinking his brain must be malfunctioning. Suddenly, Seiha's muscles give out and she falls right on top of him. Arata freezes, but Seiha joyfully announces that her test is complete. During the contact, she felt no romantic spark, meaning she can continue her life as normal. She thanks him and leaves, leaving Arata flustered and confused by the bizarre incident. Flustered, Arata yells, drawing Ukah's attention, who walks in and casually invites him to play video games. Arata assumes she just wants to pass time. While playing, Ukah gets excited and accidentally leans against his leg. Though Arata feels her closeness, her innocent smile forces him to see her only as his little sister. Ukah talks about practicing 30 hours a week and dominates the early rounds. However, when Arata focuses, he completely defeats her in 2 consecutive games. Embarrassed and frustrated, Ukah reverts to their childhood behavior and suddenly grabs Arata by the neck. Arata struggles and worries how close their bodies are. He finally uses his strength to reverse the hold, pinning Ukah to the floor. When he scolds her for pushing the game too far, they realize the position they're in. Ukah looks at him, blushes, and quietly says he's become a full-grown man. Before Arata can process it, she panics and bolts out of the room. They don't realize Kotono has been watching from a nearby closet. The next day passes normally. Later, their father calls Arata for a private talk. He asks how the siblings are handling the recent adoption revelation, and Arata reassures him that it has brought them closer to openly communicate. To Arata's surprise, his father then asks if he likes any girl, and expresses concern for Arata's romantic future. Curious, Arata asks why he married their mother. His father jokes about her looks, but then seriously replies that despite her sharp tongue, her soul was as gentle as sunlight, which perfectly balanced his own fragile nature. When Arata asks why they have so few pictures of her, his father explains that truly beautiful people often dislike taking photos. Arata reassures his father that he understands there must have been a good reason for keeping the adoption secret, and promises that as the eldest son, he will protect his siblings and ensure the family's happiness. After Arata leaves, his father looks at a photo of his late wife, and gently says that his decision wasn't wrong, expressing deep pride in having adopted Arata. Meanwhile, the sisters gather to watch a romantic drama drama featuring a proposal scene. Bonri finds the natural confession beautiful, while Ukah calls it boring. When asked about their ideal proposal, Ukah imagines a wealthy, highly educated man proposing with $1 million ring at a rooftop restaurant. Seiha prefers a stable partner with clear goals, prioritizing a detailed plan for their future and family planning. Manami bluntly says that the place and method don't matter. What truly counts is the person making the proposal. All the sisters agree. As they prepare for bed, a restless Kotono suddenly stops them. She bluntly declares that she likes Arata. When Bonri assumes she means familial love, Kotono corrects her and clearly states that she wants to marry him. Turning to her sisters, Kotono formally declares them all her rivals in love and swears that despite their sibling bond, she won't give Arata to any of them. In a mysterious scene, a letter addressed to dear brothers and sisters is shown, written by a young girl who is seen walking to a grave. A maid compliments the girl's appearance before an elderly, white-haired Arata arrives. The letter expresses love and says their smiles are precious, while the girl's identity is deliberately hidden. In the present, Arata goes jogging while still thinking about the conversation he had with his father. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, all the sisters are restless and distracted, their thoughts tangled in Kotono's sudden declaration that she wants to marry Arata. Manami, struggling to focus on her tennis training, steps outside and meets Arata returning from jogging. Remembering Kotono's words, Manami immediately acts strange and flustered. When Arata notices and asks what's wrong, reminding her of the upcoming national championship, Manami brushes him off with a meaningless joke and quickly leaves. Arata becomes highly suspicious. Inside, Bonri is scolding her dog for eating too much and not exercising, joking that it will become fat and useless. Arata joins in, but when Bonri suggests reducing the dog's food, the animal growls and attacks Arata, causing him to fall to the ground in pain. Shion arrives for breakfast, reminding Bonri that she's late for college work, and they pause to look at Arata before heading off to their tasks. During tennis practice, Minami struggles to focus, but still impresses her fellow players with her skill. When asked about her secret, she gives a confused, childish answer about lions and cats. Then she spots her senior, Nawa, and challenges her to a quick match on a drink wager. Manami wins. While resting, Nao reveals that the upcoming Inter-High Championship is her final tournament before graduation, but she's relieved knowing the team is safe under Manami's leadership. Nao recalls her first impression of Manami, fearing the skilled player would be arrogant, but was relieved to find her extremely hardworking. Nao's genuine support impresses Manami. Later, Manami overhears her teammates gossiping that Nao didn't receive a tennis recommendation from any university and will have to quit the sport for a full-time job. Remembering Nao's past kindness, Manami decides to win a gold medal to give her senior a proper farewell. Back at the mansion, Arata learns from a maid that Manami was seen wrapping a bandage around her ankle. He finds Manami training in the home gym and suddenly announces that he will be her trainer. When Manami tries to brush him off, Arata reveals he knows about her injury. Manami falls silent, remembering that her distraction isn't solely due to Kotono's declaration. Elsewhere, Ukah is similarly troubled, hoping Kotono was joking, but recalls Seiha's warning that, due to the lack of blood relation, Kotono's feelings are dangerously real. Arata examines Manami's leg. He's surprised she feels no pain, attributing it to years of endurance and flexibility training. While stretching, Arata struggles to keep his thoughts pure, noting how much she's grown and how physically close she's getting. Arata scolds her for hiding the injury from the club, warning it could worsen, but Manami insists she must play to win the championship for someone important, despite the injury. Impressed, Arata agrees to help, but advises a hospital visit. When Manami switches roles and helps stretch him, he panics at the physical contact, though Manami remains oblivious. Leaving the gym, Arata encounters Kotono in the hallway. It's their first private meeting since the bathroom incident. Flustered, Kotono asks if he was just with Manami, and if something strange is going on between them, while worrying that Manami may have said something. Arata confirms he was with Manami but says she acted normally. When he asks if Kotono knows anything, she panics and quickly retreats to her room. Later, during an inter-high match, Manami plays through the pain and leads her team to victory, securing a spot in the finals. Her teammates and Nao praise her highly. However, as they board the bus to leave, Manami's ankle suddenly gives out, and Nao immediately notices. Back home, Arata helps Manami with recovery stretches. Minami explains that after finally informing her club about the injury, they provided her with a professional trainer, meaning Arata is no longer needed. Arata hides his disappointment, simply saying that since she now has proper help, he's stepping back. Minami sincerely thanks him for his support. Later, alone in his room, Arata quietly packs up his training books as the final day approaches. On the morning of the Inter-High Championship finals, Arata finishes his workout and finds Bonri eating cereal in the kitchen. He scolds her for light breakfast, and she teases him playfully, causing him to fluster. He asks if Manami has eaten yet, but Bonri hasn't seen her. Seiha suddenly enters, also searching for Manami. Soon, all the siblings gather in the kitchen, panicked over Minami's absence. Sean notices her tennis shoes are still home, sparking worry that she might be missing. They frantically search her room but find nothing. Just as their panic peaks, Manami casually walks in, saying she just went to a nearby store. When asked about her important final match, she dodges and tells them not to worry. The siblings all glance at her twin, Shion, who's equally confused. Connecting her behavior to her injury, Arata heads to Manami's room. He hopes to find her crying, but instead sees her happily snacking. However, when Arata demands the truth, Manami drops the act. She explains that Naoi, worried, told the coach about her injured ankle. To protect her future, the coach removed her from the team, and a substitute will play in her place. She forces a laugh, saying she's glad for the break, but Arata questions if she's truly okay, sacrificing a match she desperately wanted to win for someone else. Manami insists she had no choice, and competing with an injury would only lead to defeat. Arata silently accepts this, walking away, but before the door closes, he catches a half-hearted, painful smile on her face. Outside her room, Shion stops Arata and reveals a secret. Early that morning, he saw Manami crying alone in the courtyard. He didn't approach, knowing she was trying to hide her pain so no one would worry, but it broke him inside. Hearing this, Arata quickly returns to Manami's room, grabs her hand, and pulls her out, where the rest of the siblings wait in a car, determined to support her. Bonri, who just learned to drive, is panicked behind the wheel, while Ukah loudly announces that the match starts in just 20 minutes, making her even more anxious. Manami sits quietly in the chaotic car, touched by her family's effort but conflicted over competing with an injury. In a flashback, Manami is seen begging her coach to let her play. Now hugs her, thanking her for the dedication, but insists she can't risk her future for a tournament. Manami tearfully replies that Now taught her to love tennis deeply, and she wants to win this gold medal for her senior. Back in the present, Arata tells Manami he isn't sure if letting her play is the right choice, but he makes her promise two things. If her injury worsens, she must leave the match immediately, and she must stop lying about her feelings to him and herself. Meanwhile, at the tournament, Manami's team gets off to a disastrous start. In the car, traffic completely halts the siblings' journey. Realizing they'll never arrive on time, they spot nearby rental bicycles and quickly rent them. Arata pulls Manami onto a bike, and when Shion hands him her tennis gear, Arata pedals through the city at full speed. Exhausted and panting, Arata recalls an old memory from Mother's Day, while the other siblings struggle to write about their late mother. Ukah even cried in frustration. Manami wrote a beautiful letter, thanking her that despite losing their mother, the siblings have grown incredibly close. While cycling, Arata tells Manami that although she's not naturally smart, her greatest strengths are her relentless effort and positive attitude, and he prays she gets rewarded for them. Arata and Manami arrive panting just as the substitute player is about to start the final singles match. Arata immediately drops to his knees, begging the coach to let Manami play, saying the match means as much to her as her future. After a tense silence, Now steps forward in support, and the coach finally agrees. The match begins. Manami starts tense, but hearing her siblings arrive and cheering from the stands, she instantly lights up. She wins the first point, but fierce competition forces her injured ankle to its limit. Despite fighting through the pain, Minami's team ultimately loses. Manami forces a smile and apologizes, even offering to slap Now. Instead, Now bows deeply, thanking Manami for helping the team reach the finals, and prays the injury won't affect her future. Later, the siblings wait, unable to believe where Manami could be after such a devastating loss. Arata finally finds her alone in a park, emotionally and physically drained. Seeing him, Manami instantly switches back to her cheerful act, apologizing for wasting their efforts and admitting her team's grateful attitude made her feel worse. She wishes they had been angry instead. She thanks him for bringing her to the match, so she won't regret not trying, and suggests they go home. As she turns to leave, Arata pulls her into a tight hug from behind. He gently reminds her of her promise to stop lying, and tells her it's okay to cry if she's sad. Finally, Minami's facade breaks. She shudders and desperately asks what she must do to become so strong that she never loses again. She breaks down, sobbing uncontrollably, while Arata holds her silently. The next day, Minami relaxes while showering. Her thoughts drift to Arata, and she remembers how he pedaled quickly to get her to the stadium, begged the coach to let her play, and told her to stop lying about her feelings. As she thinks about it, a strange warmth spreads through her chest. Embarrassed and acting oddly, she realizes her feelings for Arata are growing stronger. Meanwhile, Ukah is still furious over Minami's loss in the Inter-High finals. She loudly accuses the opposing team of cheating, blames the referee for ignoring fouls, and insists Manami should have won. Sia tries calming her, but Ukah asks Arata for his opinion. Arata replies that the outcome wasn't as important as the fact that Manami left without regret. Bonri smiles, impressed by his thoughtful response. Ukah complains that Arata is acting and speaking just like their father. Manami comes out and avoids eye contact with Arata. When Ukah asks for her thoughts on the match, Manami simply says she no longer cares about the result and is relieved her injury didn't worsen. When Arata sits before her, offering advice on caring for her ankle, Manami nods silently without looking at him. Still refusing to accept defeat, a frustrated Ukah grabs a tennis ball and declares she'll prove how the match should have gone. She doesn't realize the family dog thinks it's playtime and prepares to pounce. The ball slips from her hand, heading straight for Manami. Arata rushes in and catches it midair. He scolds Ukah for carelessness and checks Manami, who blushes deeply at his touch. When Manami recalls Kotono and Ukah's confessions, she wonders if this new feeling is the romantic love her sisters experienced. That night, Kotono sits alone in her room, thinking about her confession. Ukah suddenly knocks and asks to talk. She compliments the room's beauty, but Kotono gets straight to the point. Ukah mentions Kotono's confession and offers to listen. However, Kotono reveals that she saw Ukah confessing her love to Arata and Arata pinning Ukah to the floor in the game room. Realizing these misunderstandings force Kotono to declare her love publicly, Ukah quickly clarifies. She explains that her "I love you" was strictly referring to a former twin sister, and that the game room incident was an accident. Kotono steps closer and bluntly asks if Ukah truly doesn't have romantic. When Ukah reassures her, Kotono breathes a sigh of relief and apologizes for jumping to the wrong conclusion. However, as Ukah leaves, she thinks about Arata, and her heart suddenly races. Later, Bonri rushes into the living room. She forgot something important at her nursing school, but everyone refuses to go with her, except Arata. When they sneak into the dark school after hours, Bonri admits she's afraid of ghosts. Arata teases her, comparing the place to a horror film, and a trembling Bonri grabs his arm tightly. Arata asks why she chose nursing school, but she doesn't answer. Suddenly, Bonri jumps at a loud noise and clings to Arata completely. He feels her body against his and panics, but she refuses to let go. Suddenly, Arata pulls her close, covers her mouth, and tells her to stay quiet as a security guard is patrolling nearby. When the guard passes, Bonri mutters something, and Arata panics, realizing his hands are directly on her chest. He immediately lets go, feeling deeply embarrassed. They finally reach the club room and turn on the lights. Bonri retrieves the things she forgot for the children. She explains that she joined a student volunteer club that visits long-term hospitalized children. She makes dolls so no child leaves the hospital empty-handed. Then she reveals her true reason for becoming a nurse. Years ago, when they visited her sick mother, Bonri always cried on the way back. A kind nurse comforted her, and from that moment, Bonri knew she wanted to give others the same happiness. Back home, Bonri admits she's too embarrassed to tell the rest of the family the reason. To lighten the mood, she jokingly asks Arata if he felt good touching her chest first. Flustered, Arata ignores her and starts walking quickly, while Bonri laughs and follows him in the dark. The next day, Bonri hands dolls to hospitalized children, takes a group photo, and texts Arata to thank him for his help. Arata smiles at the picture. Days later, Ukah's class receives their mock exam results. When her friends ask about her grades, Ukah casually says she got her usual scores. Her friends praise her consistency and say she's bound to become the next student council president. However, when Ukah looks at her paper, she sees a D grade, and her expression tightens. After receiving her D grade, Ukah packs a bag over the weekend and prepares to leave early the next morning. Arata sees her and asks where she's going. When she simply says Yamanashi and refuses to elaborate, Arata becomes confused but assumes she just needs some alone time. He hopes she'll return by Monday, but she doesn't, and misses school for the first time in her life. The girls feel incomplete at school without her. At school, Ukah's friends ask Arata about her absence and worry about the club's pending activities. Arata has no answer and realizes Ukah's disappearance is causing a lot of trouble. By the third evening, the siblings are deeply worried. Bonri suddenly remembers they installed a tracking app on Ukah's phone earlier. To everyone's surprise, the tracker shows Ukah near Mount Fuji, which is different from the location she told Arata. Siha tries to reassure them, but Arata decides he can't wait any longer and packs his winter clothes. Bonri objects to him leaving late at night, but Siha trusts Arata to handle the situation. Arata boards an express train and heads for the mountain. At Mount Fuji, Ukah decides to stay another night at a lodge. The innkeeper mentions it's unusual to stay so long, but Ukah vaguely replies that there's something she needs to see. Arata arrives and, using tracker updates from Bonri, climbs the mountain for an hour in the dark. He finds Ukah in the lodge, surprising her. She asks why he came, and he bluntly says he came for her and is taking her home, which makes her blush. The innkeeper puts them in the same room. room. Arata texts the family that Ukah is safe, which greatly relieves them, where Manami and Katono are awake, worried. In the room, the atmosphere is tense. When Ukah tells Arata to turn around so she can change clothes, his mind floods with inappropriate thoughts and memories of their closeness in the game room, making him panic and wonder why she's suddenly looking at him differently. As they lie down, Arata insists they return home in the morning. Ukah silently refuses. She asks if people really care, and Arata confirms that everyone at home and school is deeply worried. Then Ukah changes the subject, reminding Arata that Mount Fuji is where their parents first met. Their father, a stranger at the time, carried their sick mother down from the mountain. Ukah asks if Arata believes in fate and soulmates, and wonders aloud if such fate could exist within their own family. Shocked, Arata quickly dismisses the thought, but Ukah cites Kotono's romantic feelings as evidence. Arata brushes it off as nonsense. Before he can ask why she really came to the mountain, he realizes she's asleep. Seeing Ukah, usually proud and confident, so vulnerable, Arata feels his emotions shift. He gently covers her with a blanket and falls asleep. The next morning, Arata wakes to find Ukah gone. A note on her pillow says she left home earlier. Refusing to believe it, Arata calls Bonri, who confirms via tracker that Ukah is still on the mountain. Frustrated that she's causing more trouble, Arata rushes out to find her. Meanwhile, Ukah has returned to the summit. She stood alone in thick fog for over an hour, holding a pair of earrings, drawing attention from whispering mountaineers who've recognized her since the previous day. As the fog thickens, she grows frustrated that her fated meeting hasn't happened. Doubting her own actions, she wishes she had gone home with Arata, but her thoughts lead her astray. Every path begins to look the same, and she becomes completely alone and lost on the mountain. As she wanders downward, she and Arata unknowingly pass close to each other within the fog. Thinking that Arata has already gone down, Ukah decides to return to the lodge. However, in the thick fog, she slips and falls down a steep slope, landing in a hidden crevice. Her leg is badly injured, leaving her unable to stand. She calls for help, but her voice is lost in the wind, and she becomes completely alone. In the lodge, Arata learns from the innkeeper that Ukah never returned, and her belongings are still there. Meanwhile, Bonri calls him, saying Ukah's phone signal was detected higher up the mountain. Arata realizes she's still near the summit. Lying in the freezing fog, exhausted and in pain, Ukah's phone battery dies. Thinking she might die there, memories flood her mind. She recalls how her father gave her their mother's earrings and told her the story of meeting at Mount Fuji, where he, a prince, saved the princess. However, recently, Ukah feels she can't speak to her father as openly as before. Believing no one is coming to save her, Ukah accidentally drops one of her mother's earrings. Desperately, she crawls toward it. As she reaches, the earring reflects a faint light. She looks up and sees Arata standing there with a flashlight, like the prince in their father's story. Ukah tries to stand but falls. Arata runs to her and tells her to sit on his back. Ukah tries to be strong, insisting she can walk, but Arata firmly tells her to listen. Embarrassed, she sits on his back, quietly hoping she's not too heavy. Arata reassures her that she's light, and wonders if their father felt the same when he carried their mother. They descend the uneven path, and the weather turns bad with heavy rain. Ukah finally tells the truth, revealing that she came to Mount Fuji because she watched a video explaining that bringing a deceased person's belongings to a high place allows one last conversation with them. She wanted to talk to her late mother but feels she failed because they aren't blood related. Crying, Ukah admits she's deeply troubled, her grades are falling, her mind is tangled, and learning they're not a real family has left her completely lost. Arata firmly reassures her that no matter their blood ties, he'll always see her as his twin sister. He promises to always find her, share her pain, and support her. Overwhelmed by his words, Ukah breaks down and cries on his shoulder. Meanwhile, the siblings, with Bonri driving nervously, arrive near Mount Fuji to find her. Manami had insisted on leaving, fearing Arata had also fled. Arata and Ukah soon find them at the foot of the mountain. Bonri immediately worries, like a mother seeing Ukah's injury and their wet clothes. When asked why she went to the mountain, Ukah avoids the full truth, simply saying she wanted to see where their parents met. Her siblings kindly accept this, though Ukah feels guilty for lying. Back in the car, exhausted Arata falls into a deep sleep, resting his weight on Ukah's shoulder. Ukah blushes, remembering a past conversation when she scolded Arata for not offering his shoulder to someone in need, and argued that romantic partners should rely on each other. Realizing how much her feelings have changed, she lets him rest on her. Upon arriving home, they learn Arata has a high fever from rain exposure. Shion quickly takes him to his room. Their father, who canceled meetings to return home quickly, praises Arata's bravery and tells everyone to rest. Later that night, Ukah tearfully reconciles with her father, embracing him warmly and feeling that her love for him hasn't changed despite their lack of blood relation. The next day, Ukah returns to school and, to hide her absence, claims she injured her leg visiting relatives. She spends the day distracted, thinking only of Arata. At home, Bonri makes porridge for the sick Arata. Manami and Kotono both eagerly offer to take it to him, which makes Bonri suspicious. She assigns the task to Manami and quietly shares her worry that while Arata sleeps, Kotono might try something inappropriate, unaware that Manami feels the same way. Later, Siha scolds Ukah for not caring for Arata since he got sick trying to protect her, but Ukah brushes her off. After showering, Ukah loudly announces the bathroom is free to distract herself, then quietly slips into Arata's room. Kneeling by his bed, she softly thanks him and apologizes. She admits that on the mountain, she wanted to ask her late mother an important question: is it okay to love him? After saving him, Ukah leans down and gently kisses the sleeping Arata. Realizing her true feelings, she picks up the empty porridge bowl and quietly leaves the room. However, Arata wasn't fully asleep and lies completely stunned and awake on the bed from the kiss. To escape recent stress, the Shiunji siblings visit their father's holiday rest house to play golf and relax. Upon arrival, Arata recalls past family vacations and notices how much everyone has grown. His thoughts stop when Bonri playfully hugs him, teasing him about sleeping on a bed. Angered, Arata scolds her and pushes her away. Then his eyes land on Ukah, and he instantly remembers the secret kiss she gave him while pretending to sleep. He questions her, "I love you," confession, and tries to understand her true intentions. When Ukah sees his lost expression and asks if he's okay, Arata panics. Disturbed by the lips that kissed him, he awkwardly says he's feeling carsick, an unusual excuse for him, and quickly leaves, leaving Ukah confused and worried. Later, Arata is showering, still thinking about Ukah's strange behavior. Shion suddenly enters and says Arata has been there too long. Shion reveals a secret: he recently tried to find his and Minami's biological parents and actually met a man claiming to be their father. However, Shion admits he's given up searching. He asks if Arata is curious about his parents, but Arata explains that while he is curious, he considers his adoptive father his true father, as family identity isn't defined by blood. Hearing this, Shion agrees and says their current family is what matters most. When Arata exits the bathroom, he sees Ukah and panics. Manami and Kotono notice his reaction and study him closely. That evening, the family enjoys a barbecue. Kotono, serving food, distracts Arata from Ukah. Meanwhile, Manami searches her bag and prepares a special outfit. The next morning, before sunrise, Ukah wakes and finds Arata missing. She discovers him sitting alone in a sauna tent. He is stressed and thinking about his unresolved feelings regarding Shion's search and Ukah's confession. When Arata steps out of the sauna due to the heat, she challenges him to an endurance contest in the childhood sauna. Feeling awkward and trying to avoid inappropriate thoughts about his sister, Arata initially tells her to go in alone. However, she simply sits outside with him. Eventually, he agrees to the contest and they enter the sauna. Inside, Arata struggles to control himself and his thoughts wander due to Ukah's sweat. Suddenly, Ukah asks if he plans to get a girlfriend. Arata replies that he isn't interested at the moment. Overwhelmed by heat and stress, Arata steps out of the tent. Ukah follows and bluntly asks if he still has feelings for his crush, Rara. After a moment, Arata admits he's completely moved on, wishing Rara happiness but no longer having feelings for her, though he adds that no one would love a fool like him anyway. Hearing this, Ukah happily goes to shower. Alone, she reflects on her clingy behavior and realizes her feelings for Arata may have been growing since childhood. Meanwhile, Arata sits outside, deciding he needs to end whatever is happening with Ukah before it spirals out of control. Just then, Manami, who wakes early, arrives and says she wants to take Arata somewhere. To his surprise, Manami takes him to a romantic flower garden filled with couples. She has worn a skirt for the first time, and he realizes she's adopting a more feminine style. As they walk, Manami thanks Arata for supporting her during her injury. Then she asks about his ideal wife. Caught off guard, Arata says he wants someone he can find peace with even in restlessness. Manami nods thoughtfully. Arata then notices Manami's skirt still has the price tag attached. When they both try to remove it by hand, Arata leans down awkwardly and bites it off, embarrassing them both. As they continue wandering and taking photos, Manami suddenly admits she loves someone. Arata is initially surprised, but then assumes she brought him there because she wanted help understanding her feelings for the person she loves. Feeling genuine happiness for her, he accepts his role as the big brother who helped her. Manami thanks him for his response and rushes off to buy something for him. Alone, Arata tries to focus on his sister's happiness, but his thoughts quickly return to Ukah and the kiss, causing him to yell in frustration.